Act like you can't lose. Not because you're invincible, not because you've never fallen, but because every time you do, you get up harder, you rise sharper, you return with more clarity than the version that got knocked down. That's the mindset. That's the fire. That's the relentless posture of someone who no longer asks, what if it goes wrong? And starts declaring, what if this is the moment everything goes right? You don't win because it's easy. You win because you're unwilling to fold. Act like you can't lose. And the world starts to believe it too. Not because it owes you anything, but because you finally stopped negotiating with yourself. You stopped asking for signs, for guarantees, for external validation. You became the signal. You walk differently when loss is no longer on the table. You stop hesitating. You stop explaining. You stop living halfway in. Because halfway energy creates halfway results. You act like you can't lose, and suddenly every room shifts. Not because of your volume, but because of your vibration. Confidence that isn't loud. It's calm. It's controlled. It's earned. You earned it by choosing to act when others stalled. You earned it by sacrificing comfort while others numbed their fire. You earned it by showing up to days where doubt screamed and still choosing to deliver. So now loss is not an option. Failure might come, setbacks may land, but they don't define you because your belief is built deeper than the surface. It's not attached to outcomes. It's attached to identity. And that identity says, I can't lose because I don't quit. I can't lose because I've already won internally. I can't lose because my vision is bigger than this moment. You see, when you act like you can't lose, you change the standard. You stop working from emotion and start working from conviction. Emotion says, I feel like it. Conviction says, I finish it no matter how I feel. That's what separates those who succeed once from those who succeed forever. Winners aren't built from hype. They're built from habit. The habit of executing on their word. The habit of refusing to stay down. The habit of rising even when no one claps. And if you want to become the kind of person who doesn't just chase greatness but becomes it, then you must start by removing failure as a possibility. Not because you'll never fall, but because you've already decided. Falling isn't failure. Quitting is. So stop playing not to lose. Start playing like you can't. Start showing up like your name carries power. Start speaking like your words bend reality. Start working like your results are inevitable, because they are if you refuse to be denied. This is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. The kind of alignment where your thoughts, your actions, your energy, and your environment all move in the same direction. Forward. No hesitation. No apology. No plan B. Because the minute you start building exits, you've already accepted defeat. Burn the backup plans. Burn the excuses. Burn the stories that said you're too late, too tired, too far behind. And act like you can't lose. Because when that belief is fused to your bones, when that fire fuels your movement, when that mindset replaces your fear, there is nothing this world can throw at you that you won't turn into fuel. Now go. Move like the game is already yours. Think like the outcome is inevitable. Speak like your life is following your words, because it is. And the one who acts like they can't lose is the one the world can't stop. Because the one the world can't stop isn't fueled by hype, they're powered by hunger. A hunger that doesn't fade when the crowd goes quiet. A hunger that doesn't die when the plan changes. A hunger that rises even stronger when things fall apart. That kind of hunger can't be taught. It can't be faked. It can't be outsourced. It's forged. Forged in failure. Forged in rejection. Forged in every moment you wanted to stop and chose to keep going anyway. You act like you can't lose because you've already decided to finish. Not flirt with your goals. Not try it out. not wait and see. Finish. And when that becomes your rhythm, the fear of losing gets replaced with the fire of becoming. Because every step, every rep, every uncomfortable decision is no longer a risk. It's a vote for your future. You're not reacting to life anymore, you're orchestrating it. You're not surviving the process, you're sculpting your character through it. And that character, that's where the real wealth is. Because when you know who you are, when your identity is carved in discipline, when your movement is built from truth, you become unstoppable. Not because you're stronger than everyone else, but because you refuse to be weaker than your potential. You're done underestimating yourself. You're done negotiating with procrastination. You're done looking back. You act like you can't lose because anything less would be betrayal. Betrayal of your calling. Betrayal of your capacity. Betrayal of the future you saw in your mind before anyone else believed it. So now, you don't need belief from others. You've become your own evidence. Every action you take reinforces who you are. Every decision you make confirms what's coming. And what's coming is everything you refuse to quit on. So move with certainty. Speak with fire. Work like your future is watching because it is. And every time you doubt, remember, doubt is a delay tactic. And you don't delay destiny. You deliver it. Relentlessly. Unapologetically. Like someone who knows. I cannot lose because I already chose to win. I cannot lose because I already chose to win. And when that choice is made from identity, not emotion, you stop checking the scoreboard and start controlling the game. You become the kind of person who doesn't ride waves, you make them. You show up before motivation arrives. You act before the results are visible. You deliver before the world thinks you're ready. That's the code. You don't need to feel ready. You need to be real. Real with your vision. Real with your habits. Real with your standard, the one that doesn't drop just because circumstances get heavy. Because if your standard folds under pressure, it was never a standard. It was a preference. And preferences don't build empires. Principles do. You act like you can't lose because your principles don't bend. Your discipline doesn't negotiate. Your focus doesn't drift. Your vision doesn't shrink to fit someone else's opinion. This is what unshakable looks like. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's unyielding. It's you walking into the fire and saying, I'm not here to survive. I'm here to claim what I built for. Because that's the difference. The average survive the storm. The best own the storm. They take the chaos and turn it into clarity. They take the rejection and turn it into refinement. They don't take losses. They take lessons. And you're that kind now. You're the one who no longer flinches when plans fall apart. You adapt. You adjust. You advance. Because you understand. The mission was never about the path. It was about the person you had to become to finish. So now, you're unshaken. And when the world sees you move like that, like someone who already knows they can't lose, they stop betting against you. They start watching. Because they've never seen someone build from belief so deep it doesn't need hype. You've become the rarest kind of leader, the one who builds silently, shows up consistently, and wins loudly, without ever having to say a word. Because the results speak. And they speak with your name on them. So keep building. Keep moving. Keep acting like you can't lose. Because the second you fully embody that truth, the world doesn't stand a chance at stopping you. Because the moment the world realizes it can't stop you, it starts following you. They start studying your rhythm. They start mimicking your posture. They start asking how, not because they want the formula, but because they can feel the frequency. Because when you act like you can't lose, you no longer carry the scent of desperation. You carry certainty. You walk in certainty. You plan in certainty. You breathe in certainty. You become the certainty others borrow their confidence from. And it's not just about mindset anymore, it's movement. Your moves speak for you. You don't chase, you cultivate. You don't rush. You own time. You don't beg for opportunity. You attract alignment. And that alignment, It starts inside. It starts the moment your thoughts, words, habits, and vision point in the same direction. No more double-minded decisions. No more maybe goals. No more identity that changes with circumstances. You're locked in now. You don't show up to impress, you show up to impact. You're not driven by applause, you're driven by alignment. You don't live by trends, you live by truth. And the truth is, you already chose to win. Not by luck, not by chance, but by conviction, by building a standard so high mediocrity couldn't breathe next to it. By refusing to wait for life to give you a reason and becoming the reason yourself. By acting, not hoping, acting like you can't lose. That kind of posture changes everything. It changes the way you handle silence. It changes the way you respond to resistance. It changes the way you look at yourself in the mirror. Because when you see the reflection of someone who can't lose, you stop wishing for easy. You start working like destiny depends on you, because it does. No more shrinking. No more explaining. No more living like the outcome is in question. The outcome is inevitable because your identity made it so. And when you move with that identity, you don't just win, you redefine what winning even means. You redefine what winning even means. Because it's no longer about trophies, titles, or timelines. It's about who you became along the way. Winning isn't a destination, it's a demonstration. A demonstration of grit, of consistency, of becoming the kind of person who shows up like their name already belongs to history. Because that's what acting like you can't lose does. It shifts your orbit. It expands your presence. It turns you into someone the world adjusts around, not someone adjusting to the world. You move different now. You don't ask, what if it fails? You ask, what will I build next when this works? You don't look at a door and wonder if it'll open. You walk through it like you are the key. Because you are. You are the door opener. You are the system. You are the source of momentum, not the one waiting for it. And that's what people feel when you speak. That's what they sense when you move. That's what radiates when you walk in silence. But everything inside you is screaming destiny. So no, you're not here to prove anyone wrong. You're here to prove yourself right. To validate the quiet voice that always whispered, you're built for more. You were never meant to live in pieces. You were always meant to move like it's already yours. So take it. Take the room. Take the stage. Take the responsibility that others avoid, because you're no longer afraid to carry what greatness requires. You don't carry the pressure. You convert it. You don't hide your fire, you let it lead. You don't need external permission, you've appointed yourself. Because the decision has already been made. You will finish. You will become. You will win. Not someday, but now. Because you don't act like you can't lose. You live like you've already won. You live like you've already won. And because you do, everything you touch begins to transform. You're no longer moving with hope, you're moving with airship. You don't operate like a guest in your own life, you own every corner of it. Your goals aren't wishes, they're orders already in process. Your work isn't effort, it's evidence of identity. Your presence isn't performance, it's a declaration. And what does it declare? That you are no longer available for doubt. That you are no longer entertained by fear. That you are no longer impressed by distractions dressed as opportunity. You're done being impressed now, you're impactful. And your impact, it's felt before it's seen. It's known before it's understood. It's permanent before it's popular. Because when you act like you can't lose, you become unshakable in your essence. You could lose money and rebuild it. You could lose people and rise deeper. You could lose time and still multiply what's left. Why? Because your power was never in what you had. It was in what you became. You became someone who doesn't fold when it hurts. You became someone who doesn't need a finish line to start sprinting. You became someone who doesn't depend on certainty to lead with clarity. That's why you're different now. You no longer play the game, you elevate the rules. You write your strategy in silence and deliver results so loud the world can't ignore them. You lead with so much intention that even your smallest habits become weapons. You rest with purpose. You rise with conviction. You execute with an edge most people will never develop because they never dared to believe this deeply. But you did. You believed so hard. You moved like there was no other outcome. And now the outcome is catching up to your belief. That's how it works. The world follows those who refuse to follow failure. So act like you can't lose, and soon you won't remember how to. Soon you won't remember how to lose, not because you forgot what it feels like, but because you rewired your response to it. Loss doesn't break you anymore. It builds you. It sharpens you. It reminds you that you're not here to flirt with success. You're here to marry it. You don't dip your toe into greatness. You dive headfirst, and you don't come up for air until the work is done. You act like you can't lose because you've decided that progress is inevitable as long as you don't back down. And that decision, it makes you dangerous. Dangerous to mediocrity. Dangerous to your old patterns. Dangerous to every excuse that once ran your life. Because those excuses, they don't belong here anymore. They don't belong in the same mind that now carries blueprints instead of blame. They don't survive in the same spirit that now runs on strategy, not stories. The stories are gone. The ones that said, I'm not ready. The ones that said, it's too late. The ones that said, what if I fail? You burned them all because you realized the only real failure is hesitation. And the cure? Relentless movement, relentless belief, relentless identity, relentless execution until momentum becomes your baseline. Now, everything you do carries intention. Every step speaks confidence. Every breath is a vote for the future you refuse to delay. You're not in competition. You're in command. You don't ask if you're capable, you assume you are, and you act accordingly. That's what happens when you stop needing proof and become the producer. You don't wait to be inspired. You don't wait for energy. You move first. Because those who act like they can't lose don't wait for life to choose them. They choose themselves. Every single time. Because when you choose yourself, the world doesn't get a vote. Doubt doesn't get a seat at the table. Fear doesn't get to whisper anymore. You've reclaimed the mic. And the only voice that echoes now is your own. The voice that says, we're not turning around. The voice that says, we finish what we start. The voice that says, I don't need luck. I need consistency. And you've built that. Day by day, step by gritty step. In silence, in solitude, in the darkness, most avoid, you found your power. Because acting like you can't lose isn't about pretending. It's about preparing. It's about knowing you've done the work no one sees, so you can live the life they'll never touch. You've shifted from proving to producing, from talking to transforming, from waiting to walking like the outcome is already guaranteed, because it is. Not because you're entitled, but because you're obsessed with execution, the kind of obsession that doesn't care about comfort, the kind of focus that doesn't get shaken by slow seasons. The kind of belief that stands tall even when the wind howls. And when the winds of life do hit, you don't bend. You build bigger. You use the storm as fuel. You use the silence as sharpening. You use every no as a new reason to say yes louder to your own destiny. This is what acting like you can't lose really means. It means you live like every hour matters. It means you look at obstacles like training grounds, not tombstones. It means your mission doesn't flinch based on how you feel because your vision is bigger than your mood. You've made a new agreement with yourself. And that agreement says, I will show up fully. I will act with excellence. I will deliver with energy. I will move like I already carry the result inside me. Because the truth is, you do. You do. You carry the result inside you, not someday. Not when the conditions are perfect, not when the stars align. Now, because the result isn't external. It's who you've become. You've become the result. You are the product of every early morning you didn't skip, Every uncomfortable truth you didn't avoid. Every disciplined move you made when no one was watching. And that kind of internal result, it can't be stolen. It can't be copied. It can't be lost. That's why you act like you can't lose, because your wins aren't tied to outcomes. They're tied to integrity, to identity, to a new reality you created from within. And in this new reality, fear has no authority. In this reality, failure is a teacher, not a threat. In this reality, you don't wait to be ready, you decide you are. That's what makes you powerful. You don't run from resistance, you rise in it. You don't seek permission, you operate like you're the permission others have been waiting for. You're not performing anymore. You're present. And that presence, that's what shakes the room. Because presence isn't volume, it's vibration. And when you walk in like you've already won, people feel it before they understand it. Because confidence doesn't ask to be noticed, it commands alignment. You walk in alignment now, with your habits, with your decisions, with your vision that's so clear, it scares your past and awakens your future. This is what it means to act like you can't lose. It means you move like you've already won the war within. And once you win that war, nothing outside of you can defeat you. Nothing outside of you can defeat you. Because the only thing that ever stood in your way was you. And now that version, the one who hesitated, the one who second-guessed, the one who played small to keep the peace, is gone. Buried under the weight of your decisions. Replaced by someone who no longer lives by reaction, but by command. Someone who doesn't chase, they create. Someone who doesn't fear failure, they wield it. Someone who doesn't hope to win, they expect to. Not because of ego, but because of evidence. The evidence of 1,000 disciplined days. The evidence of every yes to the hard things. The evidence of self-respect that can't be shaken because it was earned in the shadows. This is what legacy is built on. Not talk, not trends, not hype, standards. And your standard now? Unbreakable. Because when you act like you can't lose, you set a new baseline for what's acceptable. And that baseline becomes your identity. You're not just thinking differently. You're not just moving differently. You're becoming different, more focused, more refined, more dangerous to every lie that ever tried to keep you average. You're not here to meet expectations. You're here to break ceilings, to walk through walls, to redefine what's possible simply by refusing to stop. And that refusal, that's the core of who you are now. You've replaced doubt with dominance, fear with fire, confusion with conviction. You've locked into the kind of belief that bends the world not with noise, but with non-stop execution. And when people ask what changed, tell them the truth. You stopped playing with your potential. You stopped making decisions based on your feelings. You started acting like you couldn't lose, and life finally started listening. Life finally started listening. Because it always was. It was just waiting for you to speak with certainty. Not with desperation, not with doubt, but with dominion. With the tone of someone who doesn't ask if they'll make it, but moves like it's already done. With the posture of someone who doesn't need to be seen because their standards do the talking. That's when life changes. When you become unavailable for anything that doesn't match your future. When you start rejecting average like it's poison. When your energy no longer tolerates environments that don't align with your evolution. And suddenly, the right people show up. The right opportunities open up. The next level becomes magnetic, not because it got closer, but because you leveled up first. You became the frequency before the result arrived. That's the real law of attraction, not wishing, but wiring. Not waiting, but walking like it's already yours. And the world? The world always responds to the one who carries themselves like they can't lose. Because that kind of person is dangerous. Not to others, but to every limitation they used to believe in. That kind of person doesn't run from pressure. They perform in it. That kind of person doesn't slow down when it gets hard. They double down. And you are that kind now. The kind who rises without reminders. The kind who builds without praise. The kind who wakes up knowing, today, I don't have to hope I win. I just have to act like I already did. I just have to act like I already did. Because that action, it rewrites reality. Every step taken with conviction is a step that erases hesitation. Every decision made from identity is a decision that locks in destiny. This is how the best are built. Not through ease, not through chance, but through intention fierce enough to burn through every excuse. And now, that's you. You are no longer a question mark. You are an exclamation point in how you speak, how you walk, how you own your space. You don't enter rooms looking for approval, you bring presence. You don't adjust to fit the world, you adjust the world with your energy. You are not becoming powerful, you are power in motion. So, stay in motion. Let your consistency scream what your words never have to. Let your execution echo louder than any validation you once needed. Because acting like you can't lose doesn't mean you never feel fear. It means you move anyway. It means you treat resistance like a reminder that you're close. It means you stop counting how long it's taking and start counting how much stronger you've become. You're no longer chasing. You're claiming. You're no longer waiting. You're walking. And every step now is sacred because it's no longer about whether or not the dream will happen. It's about whether you'll keep moving like it's already yours. And the answer? Yes. Yes, you will. Because you don't lose. You lead. You learn. You last. And those who last always win. Because when the dust settles and the crowd goes silent and the spotlight moves on, it's the one who kept showing up long after it stopped being convenient that stands tall. The one who didn't need momentum to act. The one who didn't need applause to keep building. The one who didn't break when it got lonely, hard, quiet, slow. That one becomes legendary. Because acting like you can't lose doesn't just change your day, it rebuilds your destiny. It reshapes your choices. It recalibrates your circle. It reprograms your limits. You don't speak from insecurity anymore. You speak from authority. You don't explain yourself anymore. Your results speak louder. You don't entertain distractions. Your mission doesn't leave space for them. You've evolved. And evolution doesn't ask permission. It demands a higher standard. And you met that standard with such consistency, you became the standard. So now, the world doesn't need your pitch. It needs your presence. Because your presence has weight. Your presence reminds people what it looks like to believe so deeply, act so boldly, and move so fearlessly that losing becomes impossible. Not because of luck, but because of who you chose to be. You chose to be unstoppable. You chose to be unshakable. You chose to act like you can't lose until life had no choice but to agree. And now that it has, don't stop, because this isn't the finish line. This is the floor for your next level. Now raise the bar. Now sharpen the edge. Now move even faster, even louder, even deeper in belief. Because this is your identity now. And the only rule from here on out, you act like you can't lose because you don't.